your time. I can see you. Let's tag friends. Who am I going to tag? I can't control this thing. It's like the music is not loud. Yeah, and this thing has to be in front of you now, so that you speak into it. And how are Amalia and Anita and I just realized I hadn't asked for them. Hey, Charlie, we go way back. We go way back.
I know, absolutely.
So, are you ready?
Miss Kiki when you are ready.
Hmm?
I'm ready when Miss Kiki is.
Did I see yourself? Oh! It keeps moving about. Good evening, good people. Today is Wednesday, the 17th of July. And we're ready to have another Kiki's chat. And today is an amazing day. But before that, the weather is beautiful. It was sunny all through the day. It wasn't sunny, but it was warm, which is rare, so we're enjoying it as it's summer. And, you know, everything seemed stressless. So, thank you, Mother Nature. Thank you very much. Now, as you know, this is a show for women by women to women.
Good evening, good people. Today
And
is
so,
Wednesday.
because of that, we are talking about one of the women's issues that is not particularly discussed all the time. It is something which people take for granted. It happens, and sometimes we have good news at the end of it. Sometimes we have bad news, but it's only the people going through it who suffer it. Everybody else thinks it's, nature, and you shouldn't tamper with nature. I don't think so. I think if you have the power, you have to do things to make it good. And it's like the parable of the talents, where the man gave his children each some money, go and come back with what you can do. Some saved the money and didn't do much with it. Somebody multiplied, doubled the money, etc., etc. The parable of the talents. If you don't know it, Google it. The thing is that whatever is given to you, you have to work on it. Today, my guest is Maggie Swaniker. I put her full name on my flyer and said Margaret Swaniker because that's her name, but all her loved ones call her Maggie. Now, Maggie was born in Ghana, West Africa. She had the privilege of attending some of the very best international schools in Ghana until the age of 15. And then she went to Paris, where she attended one of the most prestigious private schools of fashion. It's called École Supérieure des Arts et de la Mode. Isn't it? Did I say it right?
You did. You got it right. SMOD.
Where?
For short.
SMOD for short. Where she graduated as a certified haute couture. Is it haute or haute?
Haute couture, yeah.
Haute couture. Ew. Anyway, she's been accredited twice, certified international etiquette and protocol intelligence consultant and coach, and an award recipient of the President Obama Institute for Young West African Leaders. Wow. In Ghana. She's the founder of Maternal Strides Luxury Maternity and Corporate Assist Concierge Consultancy and the Maggie Swaniker Foundation. We're going to talk more about the emotional and psychological well-being of women before, during, and post-pregnancy. Now, Maggie had a journey. It was an amazing journey. And it became an epiphany. So after all of this, I'm trying to find a suitable word to say that after all this Paris training, after all this fashion school, being with models, designers extraordinaire and all of that, Maggie totally changed tact. And it is the story she's going to tell us and the discussion we're going to have that is going to make you realize the power of God. Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
Yes. That sometimes people have a calling and you don't even know what your calling is, and you're trudging along doing something totally different, and then God takes you in a different direction. Welcome to my show.
Well, thank you, Miss Kiki. I'm delighted to be here.
People, you have no idea, and I'll tell you why at the end of the show, why I am so happy to have Maggie on my show. I will tell you at the end. Maggie, how are you feeling this evening?
I'm pretty delighted and excited to be here.
Excellent.
To share my story and my journey.
Okay. Do you want to start? I don't know. How should we start? Do you want to just get into it and tell us how it all came about?
Well, first of all, what I'm going to talk to your audience about is more to do with my non-medical experience
Yep.
as a woman journeying through pregnancy and into motherhood.
Okay.
It's not medical. It's based on my experiences and also being a mother. Apart from all the things that I've done in life, training, coaching, doing all sorts of different things, working in corporate, there's this one thing that I've become very passionate about. And it all started one day when I lay in bed thinking to myself what I could do that would change my life and that I would enjoy doing. Of course, I've always loved, looking after children and, helping women journeying through pregnancy, but I didn't see it as a job. And my question to my maker was, what can I do? What can you give me that would change my life, that I would enjoy doing? And believe you me, 3 hours later, I got my answer to go and pack bags for mothers going into hospital. I mean, the first initial stages, I thought to myself, this cannot be a job.
When was this?
This was in the year 2000.
Okay.
It would be around November 2000. I remember that clearly because, when you ask for something and you get an answer back, you don't forget these things. And at that time, I wondered why pack bags for mothers going into hospital. But then it suddenly dawned on me that, yes, when women are pregnant and they're getting ready for their short hospital confinement, the last thing on their mind is packing a bag to take into hospital. And oftentimes they end up carrying too much, too little, or perhaps the wrong things altogether. So I then suddenly realized that indeed that is a job. But little did I know that that revelation didn't really mean packed bags for mothers going into hospital. And then I didn't understand why I would have that sort of job given to me by, my special request from my maker, from God. And 2 months later, I felt this terrible pain in my stomach because obviously, when I was in my late 30s, I was told I couldn't have, children for one reason or other, and sometimes when you're told these things, you don't know what to say. And obviously,
why were you told that though? I don't follow.
I suffered fibroids. I had fibroids, and they were quite, massive fibroids, and the pain that came with it, was really very bad. And obviously, my age at that time also didn't, it wasn't in my favor. So my doctors, I obviously wanted, to find out whether, my chances of having a baby at that time would be high. And, my doctor said they would be very surprised if, I would have, considering the sizes of the fibroids I had, and I sort of took my mind completely off it. And then 2 months after I had this revelation, obviously I knew I had this fibroid, and obviously the pain that came with it, the excruciating pain, sometimes walking was difficult, but I had to, and I remember driving myself to Birmingham for an exhibition, and then I came back. On the way back, it was really very bad. By then, I was on strong painkillers. I mean, my doctor and I didn't think I needed to have a pregnancy test because that was the last thing on our minds.
They were thinking
on their mind and on my mind because we knew that wasn't a possibility or something to think of. And on my way back, I wondered how I would get home from the pain that I was experiencing. I drove straight to my parents. Thankfully, they were both at home, my mother and my father. And I said to them, I'm not feeling well at all. Because I could feel a little lump that was moving on the left side of my lower abdomen. And obviously I had, very funny thoughts of being ill in a certain way that I didn't want my parents to know. So I refused when they offered to take me to the doctors. And I packed the car, called a cab, and drove to the nearest A&E. When I got there, obviously the pain was just so bad that I could not sit. So they put me into one of their, side wards or consulting rooms. And around 1 a.m., after several tests, they came back and said they suspected an ectopic pregnancy. And ectopic? So my first words to the doctor was, are you sure they're not my fibroids? Because, it can be anything to do with pregnancy. I was so shocked. anyway, they admitted me overnight, preparing me and doing all sorts of tests throughout the night till the morning, preparing me for the operation. And then in the morning, around 10 o'clock, I had further invasive tests done. I mean, tests that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It was so painful. And after that, an hour after that, you know, the consultant came to my bedside and said, well, we have good news for you. It's not an ectopic. Your baby is wedged at the right place, but you have 9 days in which to decide whether you want this baby or not. Obviously, at that time, I was, you know,
You were in shock.
I was in shock, and at my age as well, and having been told I couldn't have, you know, children, I thought, this is the only chance that I have.
I don't understand, but why were they giving you 9 days? I don't understand.
9 days to make up my mind of whether I wanted to have the baby or whether I wanted them to take it out because of the fibroids.
Okay.
You know, so I decided to keep the baby.
Of course.
And I had the baby. But throughout my pregnancy journey, I never felt my baby kick. You know, I didn't get to feel what most women feel when they're expecting. Of course, it wasn't the normal pregnancy that most women would have. And every time I went for an antenatal check, you know, everything seemed to be okay until one day I went in and they didn't let me back home because then my consultant, I didn't have a midwife during my pregnancy. I was, you know, I had my consultant and my registrar who were looking after me because of the complications that I had. And I remember my consultant saying, you know, we're not letting you go back home. You're staying here until we decide how we're going to birth your baby. You know, because at the touch of my stomach, you know, it was nearly impossible for anyone to examine me because of the pain.
Yeah.
You know, my stomach was always ruby red, you know, almost.
Really?
Yeah, ruby red because of the pain, you know. And I didn't tell anybody. I mean, I didn't even tell my family about what I was going through. You know,
But they knew you were pregnant, though.
Of course, yes, because when we discovered, bless them, when I discovered that I was pregnant at 1 a.m., both my parents and, you know, my family were there, you know, immediately. And they were with me for quite a number of hours, and then they went home early hours in the morning because, you know, they had to go to work, etc., etc. So, yes, they knew from the very moment that I found out. You know, because I'd gone into hospital, they knew I wasn't well, so somebody had to tell them something. You know, cut matters short, I then began to realize that there must have been a reason why I was put in the way of mothers and babies. And I realized at that point that I didn't know much about having a baby. Even though I was helping many people with their babies, helping them, supporting them, being with them throughout their pregnancies, I realized that women don't really know much about their pregnancy
actual
journey.
Physical.
They do not know.
No.
You know, we are brought up to believe that having a baby is nature's natural life event. And so therefore we assume that it will happen. A woman meets a man, they have sex, and then you have a baby, and that's life. And our mothers obviously looked after us, and so we can also look after them. But then who looks after us is the women who carry the babies, the women who have the babies, you know, post, you know, birth. Who does? Because we don't even know ourselves. And so at that point, I realized that that revelation I had more meaning to it than just, you know, packing bags for mothers going into hospital. So I started to put ideas onto paper and started to do a lot of research to find out a lot about, you know, women, about our reproductive anatomy. You know, the things that we need to know.
Whilst you were pregnant?
Well, no, whilst I was pregnant, yes. I was researching all of these things on and off. And then I had my son. Now, having my son was not the easiest of things because I had been told that if they put us to sleep, we probably wouldn't make it.
Wow.
So we were, well, I was, you know, my eyes were wide open, but under serious anesthetic. I remember having, my sister was with me in the operating room, and I was giving the epidural 5 times. It did not take.
Wow.
Spinal block about 6, and on the 7th time, that's when it took.
That's when you stopped.
That's when the dye
the
set
pain,
in,
yeah.
and the anesthetic
pain,
started to work to allow them to, start the operation.
So what operation? That was a cesarean.
It was a cesarean.
Okay.
But it was a cesarean that took longer than what a cesarean
Should take. Yeah.
And obviously the dye, I could feel the dye go through my left eye, which obviously affected me in a way, and gave me a lot of pain in my pelvic, years later. I am assuming that could be what it is, even though they wouldn't, because they make you sign all these documents just in case something happens. They're not liable because, you have to have it.
You open your eye and signed it. Yeah.
I opened my eye and signed it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the baby, and obviously it wasn't the easiest of births. And I remember that I had lost so much. I lost so much blood.
Mm-hmm.
I was giving about 8 pints of blood after that.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember one of the consultants, Dr. Scott,
Mm-hmm.
because there were 2 of them, the consultant and the registrar. One was a Nigerian, the other was an Englishman. And Dr. Scott, they were talking so I could hear what they were saying. And one was saying, let's cut her up this way. The other was saying, no, she's still young. Maybe she could have another child. Maybe she couldn't. But we can't do it. We've got to do it this way. But after the operation, he decided that I was to stay in the intensive care unit until they had done further tests because of the way that I had lost a lot of blood. Because he knew that if I had been taken to the ward, they probably wouldn't do those tests or do them at a later date. So he wanted to make sure that everything was okay.
And at that time, where was the baby?
And the baby was born, and obviously when the baby's born, they show the baby to you, and then the baby's cleaned up and so on. So I think the baby was taken to the nursery.
Okay.
So I was on my own, with my sister there as well, and it was a time that I really didn't understand anything that was going on. Then I was taken to the ward. Now I saw lots of people get up and walk up. People who had cesarean sections, and they were up and about. But then I was still in bed. I had nobody to tell me that I needed to get up. And of course, I had a morphine stick around my neck because of what they had done to me.
Yeah. So you had the pain.
Yeah.
And the morphine had to keep the pain at bay, basically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Every time that I had pain, I would, sort of inject myself, and that would ease the pain a little bit. Until about 2 or 3 weeks later.
You were in bed for 2?
Yes, I was in bed.
Weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was in bed. I mean, if I wanted to urinate, they would bring in, all the gadgets and so on.
Yes.
So everything was done in bed. Until one day, this Ghanaian woman, nurse, midwife, walked in. She said, why are you still in bed? And I said, because they asked me to stay in there. And she said, no, you need to get up, otherwise you're going to be in more pain than you are. And thanks to her and her guidance and her support, I got out of bed, got moving, and come the end of the month, I lost my sister, after another sister got married. So within a month, there was a marriage, a death, and then a birth. A birth and then a death. So in all that month, I was there, and then eventually went home. So it wasn't the easiest of journeys. And once I had my son, I realized that, indeed, this research I've been doing, I've got to delve a little bit more into it to understand the pregnancy journey. I didn't want to take it for granted that it was nature's natural life event. And, I realized that there's so much about us as women that if we knew, we would be able to make best informed life choices and decisions for ourselves, not what other people tell us, because obviously they're guiding us, and which is a good thing. And I started to speak to different people, experts within their field, because then I began to understand a little bit more about pregnancy. And, as my son grew up, I would go away from this idea of establishing this business and then go on and do the things that I'm good at doing. But somehow, I kept being drawn back to it. And so I was like playing with it all the time. And then last year I decided that the time had come now. I can't run away from it anymore. I've got to really start this business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to work around it. Now, during the time I was doing my case study, I had the opportunity of speaking to a number of, African women,
Mm-hmm.
especially about maternal strides,
Mm-hmm.
about their womanhood
Mm-hmm.
and about pregnancies.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the feedback I got,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that we need a paradigm shift from the way we think
Mm-hmm.
as women,
Mm-hmm.
because we rely on our families and our friends. And I guess not just Africans, all over the world, a lot of people rely on their parents when they have children as support structures for them.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
rely on their mothers.
they rely on the mothers
Mm-hmm.
and grandmothers
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes grandfathers,
Yeah.
because they dote on them. And then the most important thing is us, especially after we've had the baby.
Yes.
What sort of care do we have in place?
Mm-hmm.
Here in Britain, for example, we have the NHS.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've had a baby, you
have
get a
a-
health visitor that comes
Yeah.
home to see you for some weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then come the time that you need to take your baby in for weighing and injections and so on, then you go into hospital. But in most countries, after you've had the baby, between 48 to 72 hours, you're back home. And within that 4 to 6 weeks, you don't see anybody
No.
until after that. So between that time is when you are more, you're more vulnerable. You're more open to disease. You're more open to infection as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be infected. You can contract something, and you wouldn't even know. So I decided that I would set up a foundation that supports women,
Mm-hmm.
through that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's mainly for post-pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
I decided that it would be something that would have to start from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
through conception into pregnancy, motherhood, and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're planning to have a baby,
Mm-hmm.
what are the steps that you're taking to ensure that baby is safe and that you will be safe? There are no guarantees in life. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
But if you know a little bit about the journey that you're embarking on,
Mm-hmm.
and you put you put the right structures in place, then you are partly or partially guaranteed a safe journey throughout your pregnancy.
Yeah.
And then you also have a plan for when you become a mother, the things that you would want to do.
Yeah.
So all through during the planning stages, you already know what it is that you're looking ahead of. You know what it is that you've planned for yourself, for your health, your emotional well-being, your psychological well-being, and also for your child's well-being, and your wider family as well.
Mm.
So my work with women is to make sure that they understand who they are as women. I mean, we do know who we are as women, of course, but do we understand our reproductive
System.
Do
we listen to ourselves?
do
I
we
remember
listen?
there was a young lady on here on this show, and we were talking about unconventional fertility, infertility, and one of the things I kept asking her was, do you know your body though? Can you tell that at this time this is happening? Or if you have a twin, if you have a this, do you know what's going on? Do you I don't think people do though.
People don't. There are a few people who in these days, in recent times, are paying attention to their bodies because there is word out there. There is some education. So there are some people who are aware of it, but still don't know where to go to. Listen, when we are pregnant or planning to get pregnant, we only have about 20 minutes given to us in consulting rooms. So how much can you learn
in 20 minutes?
In 20 minutes from your midwife, from your gynecologist obstetrician, from your GP. How much can you learn? So we want to bring in experts that come into the comfort of your space to be able to educate you, inspire you, also transform some of the mindsets that we have regarding pregnancy, motherhood, and parenting, which includes the fathers as well, the men as well, so that before you start the journey, the reason why I emphasize on the planning stages is the environment is full of toxins. How do we free our body of some of these toxins? Some of us are, what's the word to use? Some of us enjoy our drink. Some
Alcohol.
of us, alcohol. Some of us love smoking. Some of us are addicted to substances. So it is important that you cleanse your body. Detox.
Detox before you have the
you
baby.
detox. Keep fit. Walk a lot.
This is in the time of your
in the
planning. Yeah, in the
and
planning.
then you begin to take your vitamins and your folic acid. All this thing about, you are infertile, you've been told you're infertile and you can't have babies, and then you're going for IVF and you've got to test, wait and, sort of look at the clock and, thermometers, and they're good. But why don't we as women trust in God? Why don't we just relax? Mothers-in-law, this is for you. Let the in-laws and your
the
son
daughters-in-laws,
or daughter,
yes.
let them relax. Let them, let God work for them. This running around and testing, you're so stressed out and so pressurized to have that baby that sometimes it even becomes a little bit more difficult. It is a good thing. It becomes more difficult.
It is very difficult because when you are actually, and it's very strange that there are people who are not expecting to have a baby and boom, the baby pops out. And then there are the people who they plan it and then they get married and then they think very soon I'll have a baby. And they don't have a baby because continually people around them keep asking, so when is the baby coming? When are you having this baby? Is your wife barren? Is your wife going to have this baby at all? What is going on here?
The pressures of life.
And all of this will then make the wife stressed, determined to have this baby that is not coming. She doesn't relax enough to have the sex properly so that she has this baby. And it is a vicious cycle.
Indeed. So sometimes it's best to let go and let God.
Yes.
And when you let go, because you can plan your pregnancy if you want. If you get married and you plan your pregnancy, the baby might not just come immediately, but in time it will come. I mean, I had my baby when I was 41.
Yeah.
You might wonder how old I am now, but never mind. Now.
We're telling them.
Yes. I had my child when I was 41, so you can imagine the complications. So it's true when they say the older you get, the more complicated it gets.
What do they call it? Geriatric gestation.
That's they have all sorts of names, But, I urge women to begin to understand their reproductive system. How many of us know about our bone density management through pregnancy? How much
bone
of us
density.
How much of us
Calcium.
know? How much of us know about our urinary tract health? Of course, we know about the hormonal imbalances and so on, because we seem to emphasize on that so much, and the mood swings and so on. But there is a lot more to it than that.
What is urinary tract health? I haven't heard that before.
Urinary tract. Sometimes when you are pregnant and you always
keep going to the
loo, and then you have some women also who, when they are they cough, they leak a little bit. And it's because more than often they're not strengthening their pelvic core muscle. So strengthening your pelvic floor muscle is very important, because that also helps.
Is it whilst you're pregnant?
You have to do it whilst you're all the time. And most importantly, when you are pregnant. And a lot of women don't like breastfeeding. But believe you me, at the time you're breastfeeding, you're also tightening your pelvic floor muscles. When the baby is sucking on that nipple, that's actually working your pelvic floor muscle as well. We don't seem to think of all of these things.
Oh, we don't know.
So
people don't know. That's the
exactly.
thing. But I do know that as you breastfeed, there's a strange pain that comes in your body, and that is when you tighten things. You tighten your stomach, and you
can feel when the baby is sucking. You can actually feel the contraction.
Yes.
And it's very easy to, because I for example, I do my pelvic floor muscle wherever I find myself. Sitting here talking to you, I'm doing my pelvic floor muscle.
Well, I better do it then.
You're waiting for a bus. You're sitting in the car. You're cooking in the kitchen. You've got to, and then you find that these days women have babies and they've got the stomach doesn't go back to what it's supposed to. Because when you're standing or you're idle, you're sitting, hold your stomach in as far as you can whilst you're still breathing, and then hold on to your tighten your pelvic floor muscles as if you're going up and up in the lift, and then suddenly the lift drops down, and then that's when you let go, and then keep doing it. Every 5 minutes. And then it becomes a habit. So you tend to lose your stomach a lot faster, whilst you're strengthening your pelvic, all these little things that people tend to want to use to, strengthen their pelvic floor muscles, they have repercussions in the long term. It's money making, people are marketing all sorts of things, but what better way than to do it the natural way?
No.
And if you do it the natural way, and it's never too late, you can start doing it, and so this is my journey. This is the reason why I've done what I'm doing, to help women understand the emotional and psychological, well-being through pregnancy and beyond, and then mothering your child. Helping fathers to bond with their partners the more, and also to bond with their babies, because when that is done, you find that you always find a quality time to spend with them. You do the things you ought to do as a family properly, and then you build stronger, better, happier homes. It is very important. So for me, women should begin to understand what is. I mean, some people have babies, and then following that they have clots, they have this, they have that.
Yes.
Who is there for them? But the important thing is for women to learn to also ask for help.
Yes. Now, that is something I wanted to... What is the right question? What questions do you ask when you find that you want to keep the baby, so you go into the doctor and you start to chat with midwives or whoever is your medical provider? What are the right questions that you should be asking?
For you to be able to know the right question to ask, it is best when you're pregnant to get a midwife. That is why somebody like me will come into play. For example, I bring in the specialist to educate you on the journey ahead, so you get to know exactly what it entails in being pregnant, what to expect, the different options available to you, the choices that you have that you can choose and make, so that you are able to make best decisions. Now, when you are educated by the midwife, you will then know the questions to ask because you've been briefed. You have been briefed, and so you have a clear understanding. And in the briefing, you can ask questions. I'm pregnant. What if? Should this be that? I don't want to breastfeed because of A. They will educate you on the reasons why. They won't impose on you and tell you should do this. You're probably not feeling too well, and your doctor says, oh, it's probably headache, drink a lot of water. You must actually understand certain, certain illnesses that come with pregnancy.
Okay.
To be able to ask questions on those things. Because if you're experiencing those things and you don't know, how can you then tell your doctor? So the briefing and the understanding of the journey before you're actually going to see your doctor is very important.
Yes.
That is why we bring into your space the expert to brief you, for you to have that understanding, to make those choices that you need to, and ask the pertinent questions that you need to ask.
So do these experts, are they around everywhere, or is this a new thing that you have started and you want it's to grow?
It's a new thing that I have started.
Okay.
It's a new thing that I've started, and that's why I've set up the foundation.
This is maternal. What do you call it?
Maternal Strides is a luxury lifestyle concierge service, corporate assist service,
Yeah.
which is quite niche.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have the foundation.
So when you say quite niche, you mean it's a niche market?
It is a niche market.
Yeah.
Because it can be quite expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing in experts to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
However, through my foundation, we are trying to put together a platform digitally that can help expecting women, to acquire affordable support. And so we are inviting specialists in the art of having a baby and beyond.
And this is what, on the internet?
Our foundation, we're working on the foundation at the moment. And we are now inviting people to come in and partner with us.
Okay.
We're asking for donations to be able to achieve our ambitious goal, to reach, as many women globally as we can with this particular project. It is a big project, but it's a project that will help a lot of women out there. We want to be able to reduce maternal and childbirth mortality as much as we can. And especially in this country,
do we have a lot of childbirth mortality in this country?
Especially amongst black women, yes, we do.
Wow.
We do, especially among black women are...
Why? Why especially amongst black women? That's the part I don't understand.
I think there's a research that is going on now to find out why. And I guess it's because sometimes it's the affordability.
Affording what? You can have a bit of a drink whilst we're on it. I am going to play some music, actually, so that you can take a deep breath. Now, what shall I play? There's this song that I like, but I'm going to play something praising God, I think. Yeah. Why is this not playing then? Wait, have more of your water. Yeah, we're back. We've had some water, and we are back to what you were saying about maternal strides. First of all, you said the shocking thing about how it's more the black people who have serious maternal mortality, which means a lot of pregnant women, they either die in childbirth or within the first week or so after. Now, why them? Is it that there's some medical thing that people are overlooking that is affecting us, or because people have. I am the queen of dramatic pregnancies. Hey, when I am on the floor, I am looking for coolness. I am sick. I have something called hyperemesis, which is I throw up so much that there is no water around the baby, in me. Every liquid comes out. Just the smell of perfume sends me into a tailspin. The things I have gone through just to have human babies is terrible. And for some people, it would seem like I am being a drama queen. Well, I am generally dramatic, but I was genuinely suffering.
You know, it's interesting that you should say this. You were not being dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some women who suffer serious nausea problems.
Oh, yes.
During pregnancies.
Mm-hmm.
And, oftentimes we are not favored as black people
Mm-hmm.
in the care of, the symptoms that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
And we are left to suffer it.
Mm-hmm.
Others are,
They
are
just
taken
sail
care of. They sail through.
And
And I think there is a research going into this particular issue to find out the reason why this is happening and how that can be, addressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's something going on at the moment, and there are a lot of conferences coming up, or
Okay.
specific conferences coming up to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that UN is a part of this as well.
United
I can't-
Nations.
I can't speculate too much on that, but I know there is something, because obviously, like I said, I'm not an expert,
No.
and so I cannot go too deep into that area. I can only speak as a non-medical person, and specifically as a mother and a woman, and what we go through. So I can relate to what it is that you experience. And believe you me, you are not being dramatic. It is real. It's happening. And for me, as a black woman, it is important to speak about this to my fellow black women, so that we actually begin to, change our way of thinking when it comes to pregnancy. Not be thinking in the same way that we have been made to believe should be.
Which is what?
Which is, it is a natural thing. You will go through it, suffer the consequences, and you will be fine. You will go into hospital, and you'll have your baby. Or sometimes some midwives, some go to midwives and have their babies. But the bottom line is, as black women, that if we begin to do what we have to do to protect ourselves, to learn more about this journey, we will be able to reduce together, working together, reduce the, all the ailments and the suffering that we go through in pregnancy. But if you know yourself well, if you know what to expect, you're prepared for it. You will get some sort of help, medication, and if you know and understand it, you then can talk to your doctor. Because if your doctor is not talking to you about it, you can then talk to your doctor about it. Because you know. But because we don't know, they haven't got the time to talk to us about it. Not because they don't want to. There isn't the time. And that's why I emphasize on the point that we only have short appointment slots in the consultation rooms. So they haven't got time to tell us. So if you go in prepared because you know who you are, because you understand who you are, you've read about what it is, you have picked up the questions you need to ask. When you go in there and you lay it down, you even know what symptoms, when the symptoms start, you can even tell the doctor exactly what you, and tell them you would like to be tested for ABCD. Because if you don't, you won't get to do that test. You will do what is routine, what is expected to be done. End of. But saying that again, when they also realize that Your case is complicated. In my case, for example, I was blessed. I had good.
You had the consultant,
I had a consultant,
the registrar.
and it was on the NHS. It wasn't private.
Mm-hmm.
But they paid particular attention to my situation. And thanks to them, I'm sitting here today chatting about my experience and how I can impact on the life of somebody who's gone through similar as I have, or perhaps even worse, so that they can inform themselves that indeed we should not be taking pregnancy for granted.
Well, as you were talking, as you were talking, and I was saying I suffered and all, somebody was saying she went off perfume for 15 years. Also, because of pregnancy and the problems and the throwing up and all of that, she just could not stand perfume. One of the things that, there's so many things that you go off because of the horror of how it affected you whilst pregnant.
Were you eating fish a lot when you were pregnant?
Yeah.
Fish heads?
Should I have been eating fish heads?
Were you eating fish head as well?
Yeah, I love fish head.
Okay, now, these are one of the things that you need to know.
Yeah.
Because mercury is stored in fish.
Oh,
so when you're pregnant, you should be careful which fish you eat.
Yes.
You understand? And mercury, the greater part of mercury is stored in the head of the fish. So you can imagine not being informed about this.
And they say eat a lot of fish.
But eat a lot of fish, but it's the right fish.
Oh.
The king mackerels, the swordfish. There are types of fish that you can eat because you need that omega-3.
Yes,
you do. But it's the type of fish that you eat. And if you're eating fish head as well, you can imagine the mercury that you're putting into that can actually be very harmful to your fetus and to you as a woman carrying that baby. So when you're pregnant, you need to understand the right things to eat and what not to eat. So doing the research, asking for help, asking for questions, asking questions from the right people.
And asking for explanation.
Asking for explanation.
One of the things is you ask a question, and I hope expectant mothers, if you're listening or you know somebody who is expecting, you can relay this to them. But I will put this on YouTube as well for people to watch or pass on. Is that we have to be careful, even when they say eat fish, be careful of the sort of fish you eat. Don't eat fish head because it's got mercury in there, some of it. And then also cheese. They say that cheese is also
type
quite...
of fish.
Yes, the
type of cheese.
Cheese, because some of it stores bacteria. And the soft cheeses, these fermented cheeses, they're not... You should not eat them because it could affect the baby or the mother, etc. So we have to be careful. Even though they're saying do this, you have to see what is suitable for you and what is dangerous for you. Yeah.
You can eat some cheeses, but not all cheeses, like Miss Kiki said. And of course, some fish, and not all the fish.
All the fish.
So it's knowing what to eat. Of course, we all know you need to drink a lot of water and to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
And so, if already you suffer from, what it is that you suffered from.
Hyperemesis. This is one of it. I suffer from many things.
And that in recent times, there are a lot of women who are suffering from that.
Yeah.
And so if you're suffering from that and you are also eating all of these things that are not good for you, you're only enhancing the pain that you're going through.
Yeah.
So you need to understand not to do these things.
And also now we live in a different world from our grandparents and all of that. We live in the Western world mostly. And, our exposure to all sorts of things, radiation, dust, all sorts of things in the air, airborne, and all of that. So one has to be careful. You're bringing a baby into the world. You have to be careful about how, one of the things that I've got a friend, I was chatting with my friend just 2 days ago or so, and she's a midwife, and she was saying that now they say that before, when you're pregnant, they keep you in a room and you shouldn't come out, cover your head, don't do this, you're like a sick person. But now they're saying if you are pregnant, you can do normal things within reason. You can, look after yourself, and do things within reason. If you go to the gym, you could still go to the gym, but be careful what things you do. All of those things are being talked about. I don't know much about maternity. All I know is I suffered mine, so I went through hell.
Miss Kiki, one of the things I love about the African traditions and the African culture is exactly what you said. When you have a baby, it is a joyous time. It is a time that, as a mother, you are pampered, and you are giving that time to recuperate and get back, to your own body and body weight to be able to enjoy the journey ahead. And so when you're told to stay indoors, there's a reason why.
Okay.
There's a reason why, and for the baby as well.
Okay.
Dust and all that is okay because it builds the baby's immune system up. But, in the first few weeks, or perhaps the first month, nobody's saying don't step outside, but within your own environment, and just so that you can relax, get better. This part of the world, they probably take what you would call a bump moon. When you've had the baby, you then go for a bump moon where, there is a sort of misunderstanding between baby moon and bump moon, because the creation of baby moon doesn't necessarily mean that when you are expecting, you should go on a holiday. That is the bump moon. The bump moon is when you take time out, because once the baby comes and you begin to change nappies and so on, you don't have your life to yourself anymore.
Okay, so
it is the bump moon.
So explain bump moon to me again.
Bump moon is when you are expecting. You have a life. For example, you enjoy life.
It's like honeymoon.
It's like a honeymoon.
A bump moon. Okay,
it's like honeymoon. So the bump moon is when you, before you have the baby, you take that time out, either with your partner, with very good friends and family members, somewhere where you're going to have the life of your time, because you want to remember that time. Because that would be the time that you probably will never enjoy again. Yes. As a single person.
Yes.
Because you're bringing a new being into the world, and that new being is going to dictate your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So even though you have a quality of life, you have a new life. So you won't have that freedom to do the things that you normally would do easily any longer. So you take that bump moon. Now the baby moon is after you've had the baby. You need to take some time out to rejuvenate, to reflect, to get yourself back into shape. So you probably can go with your baby, but obviously there'll be somebody there.
It's a holiday.
It's
like
a holiday.
Okay.
A relaxing holiday. So you have the bump moon and then you have the baby moon. But a lot of people don't know that. They only know about the baby moon. And so the baby moon is perceived to be that honeymoon of that time spent for the last, before you start changing nappies and breastfeeding and, changing, waking up in the middle of the night. And that was actually conceptualized about in the year 2012.
Wow.
At the time we were building Maternal Strides.
Okay.
That's when the baby moon and the bump moon came into play.
Okay.
And then in 2015 it became a household thing where everybody's now bump mooning. So yes, these are some of the the things that I will suggest that women do and then get themselves engaged in. Black women, we don't like taking the time out. We don't pamper ourselves enough, and that's why we're burning out. That's why we're doing things that that we can get someone else to do for us. And a lot of the time, like we said earlier on, we depend on our family, our parents, and sometimes friends. It's good to have them around you, but what is the plan B? What do you do when they're not there? You're working. And so if you can take a little bit of what you earn to give to somebody who you can trust to look after your little bundles of joy for you as if you were present, then why not do it? So that's the quality.
I see. You see the thing. So basically you think that, or you are saying that women should enjoy the pregnancy, especially when they've built up to it, they are ready for it, they're all sorts of things, because that builds their emotional status, they have a happy baby, a happy mother, that sort of thing. And if you need help, you can get help from professionals or people who are trained to be able to help you be comfortable. I'll tell you one thing. I remember when I had my second baby, and my mother-in-law was supposed to come and help me, and it was worse than even, it was amazing. She's gonna bath this baby, so I have to run up, bring the bucket down. I have to run up, bring this down. I have to run up, bring the towel down. I am the one who's just had a baby. My body needs to adjust. I am tired. I haven't slept because I was breastfeeding all night. Now she's ready to have bath this baby, and I'm going up and down, up and down. I was used to think, oh my God, what is this? Is she helping me?
And did you have a cesarean?
No. I have, I had a natural birth, but it was still, and I used to wonder about these things, and why do we put ourselves through all this, all because it is traditional for somebody to come down and help you. But are they really helping you? The question is, are they really helping you? And then, she's there, so you have to cook, you have to whereas if you're on your own with your baby, you have systems. You bath the baby, you dress them, you put them down, and then you go into the kitchen, or maybe you can spend the whole day just eating cereal and just relax. You see what I mean? So that can be a baby moon time. The first month you are kind of, but that is the first month that you are busy up and down because you've got visitors, people coming in, someone wanted to, oh my God.
Visitors, you have the right to refuse visitors in the first month if you don't want to see them.
Okay.
And, there's nothing wrong with them being upset with you because, you've been through a lot and then you bring the baby home and you just really want to relax and enjoy your family. And so you can refuse visitors. They may not be happy, but that's okay. You don't have to do what everybody says you should do or what is expected of you. You need to think of yourself and think of your child. Or perhaps you need to let people know that when I have my baby, please visit at this time or on this day.
I need to read this to you. Somebody said, this is a message. It says, well done, Maggie. Brilliant delivery. I empathize with her journey as my 3 cesareans were awake spinal epidural. At one time, I was sure my leg had been amputated. Now I understand that it's not only me. I went off perfumes for over 15 years. No perfume, cream, soups, etc. So, yeah, I mean, there are people out there who are, they understand what you're going through. They've been through the same things. Well, both of us, I had some strange kind. I did not enjoy any pregnancy. I do, but the strange thing was I want these babies. And I'm waiting for it to happen at the end of the tunnel. But I'm telling you that the journey was rough.
For a few, I mean, we've heard about even, people that are in high places who go through this serious trauma of, discomfort when they're expecting. Yeah. And it can go, for some people, it can go on throughout the whole journey. And it's very rare. Only a few people go through that trauma. But then if you have the right care, the right help, it does make it a lot easier.
I really
and we unfortunately don't have the right care. We don't. And because of the expense involved as well, we will go in and see our doctor. They'll give us vitamins. You'll go home. You probably drink relaxing teas and find a way of getting better. And that's where we suffer a lot more. And sometimes people lose their lives through that. So I think it's very important that whatever research is being done, this situation is addressed so that there's an equal share of the cake when it comes to the care of pregnant women, so that as Black people we do not suffer as much through pregnancy. You know, and I think once we have been able to establish fully the foundation across continents, we will be able to address this for a lot of women so that, you know, we can save lives. Because we still haven't achieved our millennium goals that, you know, that were set in reducing maternal mortality. I know in Ghana, for example, we've done a great job where that is, and, you know, mortality has been reduced greatly, but there's still room for improvement. In other countries, no.
I feel in Ghana especially, in view of things that I've seen on the internet and social media lately, that a lot of men they don't understand the whole the dangerous journey that people go through. They don't understand maternal mortality, and people are unsympathetic to the journey, the things that women go through daily in their lives. They don't.
See, Miss Kiki, that's why I advocate that men should be involved from the word go, right from the start. I mean, after all, it's through them that we carry these babies for 9 months. And so they've got to be involved. You know, if you meet a woman that you love, that you fell in love with, that you cannot live your life without, a woman that you want, you know, to bear your children for you, then you must be there to support her. You must value her. You know, every time when I'm in Ghana, for example, and somebody comes looking for a job to clean the home, my question to them is, why do you want to do this job? Why? Because as a mother, I understand the rudiments and the challenges of motherhood. You know, because I always say, we are the first to wake, the last to sleep. We are that child's first advocate, first teacher. We are the first to take them, run around and take them into hospital. We are the ones that, you know, communicate on their behalf. We teach them everything that they will come to know. So if you're coming to work for me, are you prepared to be a mother? Because I'm going to work. I'm leaving my child in the house. You know, and this is why, again, Africans, we should also realize that when the human rights advocates speak about helping your domestic staff, we tend to have the house help doing everything in the house. But your house help is not a nanny. She has no experience or qualification of looking after your child. In the olden days, when I was much younger, my parents had more than one person looking after different areas of, you know, housework. There was proper household management. There was one who was responsible for the cleaning of the upstairs, one who was responsible for the cleaning of the downstairs, one who was responsible for the kitchen, one who was responsible for the children.
But that is rare in normal people's households.
Yes, it is rare in normal people's households. But if you have the average person who can't afford that, why put all the load on your house help? So therefore, if you're taking that super house help in, then she must be a super trained house help who knows that once she's planned her day, this is what she's doing. This is where the child, this is my time with the child. Everything has been synchronized as a mother would do. Because as a mother in a house, you start everything in the morning. You are the last to sleep.
The CEO.
You are the CEO. Yet nobody values that woman.
No.
Their husbands don't value that woman.
No, they don't. They don't even see. A man, one of the interesting things is you've got a baby, right? And that is why you're at home. And so he wakes up in the morning. You've already woken up 3 times to look after this baby. And he's going, oh, you know, this baby's crying too much. Then he has his bath, dresses up, and goes to work. You're with this child. You're doing everything with the child. You're teaching the child. You're laughing with the child. You're running after the child and everything. And he comes home and his dinner is ready. He eats. And then you're talking about something and you say, oh, so when are we going to do it? And he says, but you are in the house. What do you do all day? This is a constant question that I don't get. Men ask that question all the time. But you're in that. What do you do all day?
You know, you talked about, I think in one of your programs, you talked about domestic violence.
Violence, yes.
This is one of the abuses that women go through. Miss Kiki, this is one of the abuses that mothers go through.
Yeah.
You know, if your husband understands your pregnancy journey from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which I really urge men to be involved in. You impregnated a woman. You love her. You care about her. If she dies and she leaves you, you will be the father to that child single-handedly.
Who told you? These African men especially, when the woman dies, yes, he'll be cut up for a short woman. He will marry somebody else because his intention is it's a woman's job. So he's looking for a woman to come and take over. People are not aware that that woman coming in is not going to love your child the way that the actual mother would love that child. And people take a lot for granted.
You know, that is why I will keep insisting that fathers need to be involved from the beginning. You love this woman. You married her.
Yeah.
You want her to bear your children.
Yeah.
So be involved in her life and stop going out there drinking. Nobody's saying don't, you know, sort of socialize with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have them around. But also value your wife. Value her as you saw her when you took her from her family home and made her your wife. Value her as her parents valued her.
Well,
Treat her like the queen that you saw in her before you married her. Because when you do that, not only are you building a stronger relationship, because, you know, she is your friend. She's the one that you can trust. She's
to
the
look
one.
after your
She's the-
children.
You know, there's a saying, behind every successful man is a good woman. So if you're taking care of that woman
Mm-hmm.
and taking care of your children before all else, because after all, why are you working? You're working for them. You know, men will always be men and they'll do whatever they want to do. But should you let your wife feel like you don't care? Be there for them. Stop putting your feet up, reading your newspaper and changing channels. You know, be a part of that journey.
That's
Give
part
them a
of them
break.
being a man.
Give them a break because, you know, this is what's causing mental postnatal depression.
Yeah.
Because the woman can't take any more. She can't take any more, and she doesn't know who to ask because if she goes to a friend, you know, but that it comes with a package. It shouldn't come with a package. It is a journey. You know, when you get pregnant, some women think it's an illness. It's not. It's a journey to be enjoyed, even though you have all the, you know, bits and pieces that come in that wear you down.
Mm.
You need to enjoy it, and if you have your partner in it with you, what better way than to enjoy that journey? And then as you go through it, they are in it with you.
Mm.
So they begin to understand what it is you're going through. They don't need to carry the baby to know what you're going through. If they are in it with you, they understand what
They
you're going
are
through.
sharing.
So they're sharing, and then they're able to support. So fathers out there, I'm urging you, black fathers. Some of you are doing your best. So we're not going to say all of you. But majority of you need to now start getting involved. It is very
a little bit
vital.
more.
A little
And
bit
it's
more.
not husband, it's not just her, it's partners. It's whoever helped to make this baby. That's basically it. This becomes your child is your responsibility as well. So I don't understand how some men have it fixed in their mind like it's nothing to do with them. It's only when the baby when he's paying a fee or when he's doing something but it's more than that. It's everything. Everything around the baby is your responsibility as well.
You know, I grew up in a home of love.
Mm-hmm.
A home where my parents, you know, people would walk into our home, and when they open the door, the laughter they hear, they think we're having a party. But then it isn't a party, it's just us with our parents sitting down, chatting, laughing. Because my father made it a point to be involved in his wife's life, in his wife's, pregnancies, in his wife's, the only thing that he didn't really do a lot of the time is come to the PTA meetings, which I think a lot of men don't do. And sometimes you can understand because it's their work. But, he was there for us. So we had that bond. Bless them, they're gone now, but they'll never be forgotten because of the memories that they left behind.
They created.
They created. a wonderful memory, and that is what it's all about.
Mhm.
Creating that bond, building those strong relationships, valuing the woman,
Mhm.
and the woman also getting into herself
Mhm.
to discover who she is as a woman,
Yeah.
so that she doesn't allow herself to be compromised by the situations that that hit her unexpectedly.
Mhm.
So whether you plan, whether you don't plan,
Mhm.
always remember that pregnancy is a journey that is to be enjoyed,
Mhm.
a journey that you need to ask for help,
Mhm.
and the right help, trusted help from the right people.
Mhm.
If you don't know who to go to, ask, because the name of asking, the law of asking is, if I don't know, somebody else knows, and so you will get that help to be able to save yourself.
Another question I wanted to ask you was, what are your options when they say you have a problem and therefore you should have an abortion? I'm gonna have an abortion show next week. I've got, but when you are in all of this, problem, it's not a problem. But when you are pregnant and there are issues surrounding the pregnancy, when they ask you that you have a few days to make up your decision, do you want to keep this baby or not? What then do you do? What kind of, because this then becomes a dilemma.
This is why I say we all have choices.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to be able to make that choice,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be informed.
Mm.
You cannot make choices without being informed.
Mm.
And that's where the education comes in. You need to understand the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I, for one, I don't advocate abortions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. However, I can understand why certain people will have it.
Mm-hmm.
They will have it because of certain reasons personal to them,
Mm-hmm.
or unique to them. I, for example, when I was expecting my child,
Mm-hmm.
I was offered the amniocentesis test
Mm-hmm.
to check to see whether the baby would come up with some sort of defect.
Mm-hmm.
I refused to have that needle put in me, to have that test done.
Mm-hmm.
It was my choice. I wanted it to be, whatever would be, and the honest lay on me to take that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If my child came up, okay, fine. If it didn't, fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that God wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that when it comes to abortion, it's a bit of a political issue at the
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm.
But it's the choices we make that will determine what the end will be.
Mhm.
Because you may have several abortions,
Mhm.
and that will lead to you not ever having a child when you're ready to have one. You may have an abortion and still have many children.
You may have an abortion.
You may have an abortion and still have many children.
But you may have an abortion and not have any child at all.
Which is what I said in the beginning. You
Mm.
may have it. You may have an abortion and never have any children in your life again after
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
You could have one abortion
Mhm.
and still never have a child, or have as many abortions as you like and still have children.
Mhm.
But the choice is yours to make. But always remember,
Mhm.
if you are a true Christian, because I am,
Mhm.
I would not advocate that you have an abortion.
Well,
It's very controversial, but
somebody who knows you has sent a message just now. She says, true about her parents. Her mother was so beautiful and gracious, as I remember from school. Her father was a real gentleman, a respected judge, and so gracious. If we and our mother chanced to meet him at Swaniker. Oh, thank you, listener, for that. That's really beautiful.
Thank you all,
to see.
listeners, for all your comments. I appreciate that.
People, I'll tell you something. This is my childhood. We were best friends.
We were indeed.
We still are. I mean, we still are. But this is my bestest friend in the whole wide world. From when I was little, we were little.
We were little. School days.
School day, primary school, and we used to we used to keep the coins in our pocket and go to the sweet shop and get
The pastry shop.
The pastry shop. And then in weekends we would oh God, we did so many things, you know.
Oh, we did a lot of things. We were never able to say goodbye to each other.
No,
we'd
we'd
see
walk,
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. We always met around my parents,
Yeah.
and then we will walk each other halfway, and everybody
yeah,
will go
to
somewhere,
my house.
or the drivers will come and pick us up.
And then in
come
fact,
back.
when the drivers come to pick us up, we would all get into one car. So the other driver is following. And then we get down, and so we talk. And then now the driver is like, I'll be in trouble. We have to go.
Sometimes we send them away.
Yeah, there you go.
We send them away.
And oh God, I remember so much that we used to be in your house, and then we'd get Hanson to go and buy Kilowele at the roundabout.
At the roundabout, yeah.
And we used to, and then when your parents had party, because my parents would come to the party, so we would all be in your house, and we would be the ones dancing, and
we had fun.
We had fun.
And my goodness, our parents' telephone bills always went up.
Yeah.
Because the minute we parted, we would call each other.
We'll be on the phone.
Slept.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be on the phone.
Chatting.
You know?
And you would always say, okay, so when we were going somewhere, you would be deciding what we were going to wear. You were always into this fashion. You were always drawing things.
Yes, indeed, yes.
You were always so determined to get us all dressed up. Do you remember all these things?
I remember all these things. You know, I remember what we used to do. There were 4 of us.
Yeah.
There's Caroline Odway, yourself, Mary Lomote.
And Mary Lomote.
And myself.
It
was the 4 of us.
The 4 of us.
We had a wonderful time. You know, and I really do wish that we could pick up from where, you know, we set up. Because obviously we went to different boarding schools in the end.
I went to the same boarding school with Caroline Odway.
Yeah.
And then, but she went to she was in House 11, and I was in Cesar, so we were in different compounds. And then you went off to...
I went to Akosombo International.
Yeah. And then Mary went to Holy Child, I mean, even this morning, I saw a picture of her, so I kind of sent her a message.
So good, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She looks ever so gorgeous.
Yes.
I saw the picture as well.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, we had wonderful times, and you know, it's amazing that we should meet like this,
isn't it?
On Facebook. And you know what? Facebook is something. Social media is not my thing. I'm the old-fashioned girl. You know, recommendations, and I'm only just now getting into social media. So I'm taking baby steps. So, audience, please forgive me. You know, this thing is not me. I'm making my mistakes, but we're getting there.
You're not making mistakes. You're doing well.
Everybody's pushing me to do it, so we're getting there.
Yeah, no. You've done really well. You've told the story. I mean, it's very funny because we would break up and then we'd find ourselves again, and then we break up and then we find ourselves again. Because you went off to Paris, I came to London, you know, that sort of thing. And then we found ourselves. Do you remember? And then when things happened, we would find ourselves again. If a tragedy or something, we'd find ourselves again. You know, and then we'd kind of go our separate way. Oh, my word.
But this time I think it's coming back to
yes.
phone bills are going to go up again.
Oh, yes. Oh, well, we're going to use WhatsApp.
I'm truly delighted to be here.
I'm so happy you came.
I hope that I have impacted on the life of many women, and especially on the importance of discovering who we are as women, learning a lot about our reproductive, you know, anatomy and systems, and doing something about it, and asking for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help.
No.
I mean, I'm a control freak. Which I think, you know, I like to do things all by myself. But in recent times, I find that I cannot cope doing things by myself. I need the help. I recognize that. And so it is important that we stop being control freaks as women, as mothers, and allow someone else to step in to help us. Because then we will be, you know, we'll remain sane. Well, having a child is not an easy journey.
It's not an easy journey. We've done it, though. We've managed to do it. But it wasn't easy. One of the things that... we will talk about again, because I'm sure you'll come back when you launch Maternal Strides, isn't it? So you come and talk about it properly, so that people know what it is that you're doing, and then, you know, invite women to the launch. The thing is, even if some women are not having babies anymore, they may have daughters, nieces, friends, whoever, who will need that sort of help. So it's very good. Also, thank you very much. This show, my show, Kiki's Chat Show, It's for women. It's by women. It's to women. And it's to help. I always say, and last week I had a bit of a rant because I was quite upset that I wanted to talk about polygamy, which is what women don't want, and yet they didn't come on. It was men. I had 7 men who were quite keen to come on the show and talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
I need women we need to bring awareness of our issues outside. We need to bring out our issues, and that's the only way we can solve or help each other. And as you said, people need to ask questions. People don't like to. People say, "Oh, childbirth, it's not bad. You can just." It's not true. The whole journey in childbirth can be quite traumatic. Now, people don't speak the truth. People don't share the truth, and therefore people go through a bit of hell and then find out, on the rugged journey. Now, and then you see some people who are not suffering and they have the baby easily, and you kind of think, why? Why am I going through this when they are easily eating any apple, they eat fufu, they eat everything, and I can't eat anything because so we need to share our information, and we need to become aware that these things are not secrets. They weren't secrets before, and women knew, how to deal with things. But now we're kind of apart, especially us in the diaspora. You need help. You need somebody to be with you along the way. If you lived in Africa where parents and grandparents and you were in the midst of them, that's fine. But even now, you go to Ghana, for example, and I always mention Ghana because that's where I know. People live apart, and parents are also busy, just like in the Western world. So there are times when your mother cannot come and help you, or it's your mother who's abroad and you're in Ghana, or something, And we need to be kind to each other, and that's one thing I say every week. Ladies, we need to start learning to be kind to each other. And it is when we are kind that we get positive results. Do you see what I mean? Now here I am sitting here with my best friend from my childhood. We've gone through all sorts of things separately, jointly, severally, all over the place. And here we are. I am very proud of you, Maggie. You've done so much. You speak French. I remember you and I, when they were teaching us French, we would be drawing. You would be drawing, and I'm reading a book and hiding it and reading. Today, you speak French. You have done designing. You've worked with great people. You have done all this, and yet you've come back, and because of God's instruction, you are now working with babies, pregnant women. You're doing all of the things that, and I will let you know, I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you very much.
Extremely. And you are so beautiful still, just like you were when we were kids.
As you are.
Oh, my God.
As you are. But by the way, Candy, Maternal Strides is actually operational.
Oh, okay.
But it's quite a big project. So we're going to be launching the full service that we offer in 2020 on the 12th of March next year. So we're supposed to have launched in September, but there are a few things that we need to sort out. So we've moved the date to 2020. Okay. But we are operational, and if there's anybody out there who wants us to help them to plan their journey, or support them post pregnancy, we're happy to come in and work with them. Okay. We travel around and we'll do whatever we don't actually tell you what we can do for you. We ask you how we can help. How you would like us to help. Yeah. And then of course we have a lot of different things services that we can offer you. But the best thing is to ask you what it is that you want us to do for you, and we'll do that for you. So yeah.
Okay, people, we have come to the end of the show. This has been a very illuminating show. Thank you very much. I'm saying it again. Thank you. A gentleman, Adesoya, also says thank you. You have brought clarity to the subject.
Thank you, Ade.
Yes, thank you, Ade. Thank you. So now we shall go. Thank you so much, everyone who listened to the end. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, people. Thank you, my beautiful people. We are going now. Maggie and I are going to catch up. Bye-bye. Thank you. Be well. Be well. Love you loads.